Hello everyone, this is Dr. Jian and I'm very excited to introducing our first module of learning. And so in our first week, we have light packed of the statistics concept. The main reason is I know a lot of students are trying to sign on the classes and decide your schedules. And so we have very light statistics concept in this first week learning. However, it doesn't mean it's not important. We actually learning the most crucial knowledge you need to know before you start your learning of the statistics. It's mainly what I mean, mainly focusing on the ethics and the motivation of learning. Okay, so after you finish learning this module, you are able to achieve the following 5 learning objectives. So the first is you are able to define what is statistics, and also you are able to explain the usage of the statistics. Second, as this is a required course for all business and economics students, and you need to understand the reason why you need to learn it. And the third learning objective is that you need to understand why the statistics is so important in the business. So basically, we are looking at the uses of the statistics in business. And then the next, you are able to understand the common challenge facing business professional using statistics. And the fifth learning objective, the last but not least, that is you are able to explaining the common statistical pitfalls. So I hope you feel excited about this, our 5 learning objective for this module. Like I said, not a lot of number involved, and we are building the motivation for this class, and I hope you are enjoying the learning. And as I mentioned, one of the very important learning outcome for this module is help you understand why we need to learn statistics. So instead of just reading the textbook, and let me starting with something fun. And so I'm showing you this product from Amazon called the Labubu, and I think hopefully some of you guys heard about how popular this little squishy toy is, fluffy toy is. And so it's made by the Pop Mart and one of the Chinese company, and then they're creating this kind of collectible toys. And I believe on their official website, the Pop Mart now sell for $27, around $27. And the problem is they sold out the day they release, and then they continue releasing that, but they continue selling out. And now you are able to find the people who are hoarding on those products, they're reselling it on the Amazon. So for instance, here they're selling for $45.99. So the question here is this a good price given you cannot find it on their the official website? So to answer this question, whether this price is good or not, you need to rely on the statistic. Why is that? You need to look at the historical data and to understand, hey, what is the highest price, the lowest price, and then to figure out, hey, if this is a reasonable price. So how can we get that information? So there's a website called Keepa, and on this website, I'm able to see the historical data, the price of this item. As you can see, for this item, at one point it was selling for $15.99, and then now it's $45.99. But we do see the lowest price at one point is $39.99. Now let's look at another fun item that is related to the university you are earning your degree. So Penn West University's hat. So this is such a cute baseball hat. It's $21.99. So is the right moment to purchasing this hat, or it's overpriced or underpriced? So to answer this question, we need to look at historical data. And so let me show you the historical data. As you notice, that since July 2024, this hat has kept the same price. So therefore, the highest and the lowest price have never changed. So maybe if you want to buy the hat, just go ahead and buy it. But definitely it's not like Labubu. Maybe you have some kind of investment value from it, because at the historical price it was high, and then very low, and now it's at a media. So maybe the price is going to go back up again. So as we're talking about the lower price, higher price, so actually that's related to the statistics. Okay, so now let's go back to thinking about why we need to learn statistics. As we learn from that two examples I just show you, you should understand that statistics is not just about a subject you're learning. It is actually mainly helping people making a better decision. It has become extremely crucial for the business world when the time is money, and also the information is money. So knowing statistics allow you to digest the massive data consumer produced and then to getting the business insight. So therefore, the increasingly companies are using statistical analysis, business analytics to support decision making, recognize anomaly that require tactical action, or gain strategic insight to align business process with the business objective. So like I said, the example I show you maybe just your personal decision. So you can imagine if you're a seller on Amazon, so that kind of data allow you to understand, hey, when should I buy the item and how much I can sell, right? So it become a business decision. And here I'm also mentioned about the tactical finding anomalies that require tactical action. So for the credit card, sometimes you swipe your credit card, you get a notice from your bank, hey, can you verify it is you consume slide the card? So whatever you did at that moment triggered the statistic model the bank using to say, hey, maybe this have a high probability be a fraudulent fraudulent swiping the card. We need to double check the owner, make sure he or she is the one using the credit card, right? So those are not magic. Everything underlying are statistics. Okay, so the businesses that combine managerial judgment with statistical analysis are more successful. Here we want to emphasize statistics is not Harry Potter's magic wand. So the statistic is just additional tool to help the business decision maker to making a more informed decision. So that means we cannot just say, hey, statistics tell us this is going to make money, then you just go ahead to do it. So it does not. So this just gives another dimension to allow the business the decision maker to consider and to conclude, hey, I might make a sound business decision or not. So the statistic alone cannot 100% predict the future. So as we learning more and more, you will understand the statistics is about probability. Statistics is not about 100% accuracy, right? We try to predict the future. Nobody can predict the future, but statistics can getting a high probability event prediction. So therefore, we want to emphasize in the business world, we emphasize statistics, but we know the statistics alone cannot make this business decision. It has to be managerial judgment along with the statistical analysis to help the business decision maker to make a decision. Okay, so now the question is, what is statistics? Okay, statistics, I think you learned this word in your high school already, and I think a lot of good high school, they try to let a student to get ready for college. So the statistic is not just about mean, median, mode. And when we're thinking about the statistic, and actually it is a science of collecting, organizing, analyzing, interpreting, and presenting a data. So it is a science of the analytical procedures. So it's not just about a one concept. So therefore, during this whole semester, we are building a foundation so that you are able to know, hey, what kind of tool I can use collecting data, and what kind of tool I can use to analyze the data, and what kind of tool I can use to interpreting the data, and what kind of tool I can use presenting my data. Okay, so that is statistic. And when we're talking about statistic itself, and that will referring to like mean, median, mode, and the way we summarize a sample data set, etc. Okay, it is very important for you to be able to distinguish what is statistic and when we're calling out one single statistic. Okay, so after we understand the definition of statistic, so next we're going to look at what type of the statistic we will learn during this whole semester. So here I'm showing you two different kinds of statistics. So the first is relevant with your learning, right? So as many of you are trying to earn a college degree, and the big question is after I graduate, if I try to find a job, what gonna be my salary look like? So this is a report based on 2025 data. And then it said that the 25 best U.S. undergrad major for early career earnings, and the median annual income for worker age 22 to 27. Okay, so the top is the computer science, chemical engineering. Computer engineer is $80,000. And if I scrolling down, econ and the finance are at the same group, 70,000. And then if you go down, accounting, marketing, 57, accounting, 60. Seems like if you are econ major, you are on the good track. Is that true? So you might say, hey, I don't think I'm gonna make 70, or you think I can make more than 70,000 a year, and so after I graduate. So are you wrong? So I think your thought is right, because first of all, the data we are seeing here is the median income. So basically, they collecting the data from a group of people. So they did not ask everybody major in computer science, major in econ or finance, give this data. So they go into a small group of people who are earning econ major, who are earning finance major, who are earning computer science major. So then they got their data, and then to figure out this statistic called the median. We're going to learn more in our next module. And then so to see, hey, that is the median income you're going to earn, 70,000. As you know, this number, 70,000, is a statistic. But the function of this statistic is help you to do future forecast or forecasting the population. So therefore, here we call this as inferential statistic. So now let's look at the other example here. And what we are staring at here is the Pennsylvania population. And by this point, so there is some kind of projection here in 2029. So let me just go back here. Okay, 2024. So 2024, the Pennsylvania population is 13.1 million. And if we're going down here, 1950 is a 10.5 million. Okay, so this is not based on some kind of small group of people to figure out what is population. So this data is rely on the US Census data. So that means this data is reflecting actual what's going on in this Pennsylvania. So this is a statistic, but we don't call this statistic as predicting. We use this statistic to describe what's going on in Pennsylvania's population. So I can click the growth rate. So as you can see, our growth rate is going to the negative territory here. It's kind of concerning, right? So anyway, but here we are describing the fact. So describing the fact, it's a still statistic. So I'm using these two examples to help you to think about what type of statistics we're going to learn in this class. So generally speaking, we have two different kinds. And the first kind is descriptive statistic, like the population of the Pennsylvania. So that refers to the collection, presentation, and the summary of data. Okay, it's nothing else but just representing a fact. We're using that to describing the population. So the other one is called the inferential statistics. So that refers to the generalizing from a sample to a population and estimating unknown population parameters, drawing conclusion and making decision. So the key here is that when we thinking the statistic is inferential statistic, you are able to distinguish sample and the population. So for instance, when we're talking about the undergrad top 20 paid major, and so we getting that median, that statistic based on a small group of the students who are majoring different in those majors, and then we calculate their median, and we are using that median to representing the all student majoring econ, all the student major in finance, all the student major in marketing, etc. Right? So in that situation, that statistic, that median income, we consider as inferential statistics. Okay, so during this semester, we're gonna, in the second, third module, we focus on the descriptive statistic, and then after that, we will move on to, and also the probability, also descriptive statistic, and after that, when we move on to the like a hypothesis testing, regression analysis, that's when we're gonna focus on the inferential statistics, because ultimate goal, we not only just try to understand what's going on, but also hopefully we can use the statistical skill to do forecasting, right? So this kind of inferential statistics allow us to forecast how our population data should look like. So therefore, let me give you an overview about what we're going to cover during this whole semester. So overarching, we're learning statistics. And generally speaking, we are learning describing data. So chapter 2, 3, 4, 5 to 8. So we spent 2/3 of the semester to learn called describing data. Okay, and then we're gonna using the 1/3 of the class time, kind of say half, almost half, more than half learning the describing data, and a little bit less than half of time learning the inference from the sample data. And so you have to understand the describing the data first, building a good foundation before you jump into how to use those statistics to predicting what's going on. And also in the QB3, we're gonna even further the learning of our inferential statistics. Okay, so as you are preparing for the homework and this part become important, you need to be able to distinguish what is inferential statistic and what is the descriptive statistic. And if I give you statistics, you need to be able to identify whether it's inferential or descriptive. The key is that if you are able to identify sample and population, then you should go ahead to say, hey, this is inferential statistic. Okay, so in our next video, we're going to focus on our second learning objective. So as a business student, why you need to learn this statistics class. Now let's look at this practice question related to our first learning objective, understanding what is the statistics. And so in the lecture video, we learned we have two different kinds of statistics. One is called a discrete statistic, and the other one is inferential statistics. And I emphasize that in order to distinguish them, you need to understand whether you had population the sample and whether you are forecasting the futures instead of describing the fact, right? If it's describing the fact, that would be discrete statistic. But if it's about forecasting something unknown, that will be considered as inferential statistic. So here is the question to testing how well you're understanding the differences between discrete statistic and inferential statistic. So here are 4 options: summarizing a sample, describing data numerically, estimating unknown parameters, making visual display of data. Okay, so as I just mentioned, and discrete statistic is literally just stating the fact, right? So therefore, the summarizing a sample, that is just stating the fact about how your sample look like. So therefore, the summarizing a sample is discrete statistic. And describing data manually, again, it is describing the fact and it's not trying to do forecasting something unknown. Therefore, the second option is still considered as discrete statistics. And the third option, estimating unknown parameters. So this is something I talked about, you forecasting something unknown, either related to the population or related to the future, the current of event. So when you're using the statistics to forecasting something unknown, we will consider that as inferential statistics. Now you might want to ask, what does that mean by parameters? So in our next chapter, when we focus on the sample and population, we will emphasize that statistics are used to describing the sample data, and a parameter are the one used to characterizing the population. So most of the time in the business world, we won't be able to have the data for the population. So therefore, we need to rely on our sample data and to getting the statistic based on the statistic to predicting how our parameter for the population should look like. So therefore, the keyword for the third option is unknown, right? So if it's not known, we try to using the statistics to figure out the unknown future or population. That would be considered as inferential statistic. So therefore, the third option here is not descriptive statistics. And how about the last option here, making visual display of data? So again, this is just stating the fact, right? So how our data look like. You have, let's say, a whole class with 30 students, 20 male, 10 female, and then you just creating some kind of chart to representing that. You are just stating the fact. So you are not using that to predicting the population or something unknown. So therefore, for this question, which is not a likely task of the discrete statistic, that will be the third option, estimating unknown parameters, because that is belonging to inferential statistics. So I hope this practice question will help you understand the very important differences between inferential and discrete statistic that is relevant to our first learning objective 1 in our first learning module. And so this question also relates to your homework, and hopefully this is going to help you to get that question right. And good luck.